Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Russ Ray with the Predictive Media Network. This time joined by Jeff Hahn. Jeff, always great to have you here. And our focus this time is on the recent uproar over the mishap at the end of the Academy Awards. And you know, in our predictive interviewing model, we focus a lot on messaging. And sometimes messaging occurs under difficult circumstances, similar to what PricewaterhouseCoopers finds themselves in after the Academy Awards.
That's right, Russ. And one of the models that we use is called image repair theory. We talk about it in the predictive interviewing model conversations. And that image repair theory is one that was advanced by Professor William Benoit. He's at Ohio University, and he's one of the godfathers of this really interesting model on how you dig yourself out of tough spots.
Yeah, and so this has become a crisis communication case study. And so what things do you look at when using the image repair theory model?
Well, there's 5 different ways that you can repair your image after a reputation hiccup. PwC certainly has one. And let me walk down through those 5. We can explain each, and then I'll talk about how PwC has used each of those 5 options during the aftermath of the Oscars ceremony.
And your analysis has found they've used all 5.
They've used 5 different techniques.
Okay.
Yep, and we'll walk down through those. Now, let me give you a start at the top. The first strategy, if you're in trouble and you need to respond and protect your image, is to straight out deny it. Wasn't our fault, wasn't my responsibility. I don't think PwC had that option in this case.
Right.
Second option, though, is called evading responsibility. And when you evade responsibility, you can do a number of different things. In fact, there's 4 options on how you evade responsibility. One of them is just to express, hey, we had good intentions, we tried to do the right thing, but it just didn't work out. A second option is, it was just an accident, almost like a collision, a car accident, nobody's fault. Tough for them to claim those 2, but inside of evading responsibility, there's also a technique called defeasibility. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back and recap what PwC has done. Defeasibility is the word. Okay, third big option, you can try to reduce offensiveness. Reducing your responsibility. You can do that through minimization, hey, it's not that big a deal, or you can transcend. You can say something like, you know, there are a lot more important things for us to focus on tonight, including for Moonlight, the fact that it was an all African-American cast and directors. I mean, it was a really amazing moment. There are more important things for us to focus on. Okay. That could have been one of the ways that we transcend the issue. Inside of reducing offensiveness, there's 5 different techniques. Those are just a couple. You can also then use corrective action. Here is our plan to fix this. Now, what can we do in a live TV moment in terms of corrective action? There's not much. You have to move very fast to try to maneuver through the circumstance. And that brings us to the final action that you can take inside of the image repair model. It's called mortification. And mortification is simply this. I'm sorry. Almost like I'm mortified that this has happened. I'm so sorry. In fact, this is where PricewaterhouseCoopers has hung its hat in the early stages of the aftermath of the debacle that happened on stage.
Within a few hours or certainly the next morning, they were doing a lot of that.
Exactly right. Now, I have analyzed some of the articles that have come out in the aftermath of the situation, and I've seen PricewaterhouseCoopers use 5 image repair techniques. Let me walk you down through them. The first is they've talked about their 83 years with the Oscars. Now, this is a technique called bolstering. It's part of the reducing offensiveness. And really the idea is, hey, we've been friends for so long.
Yeah. One mistake in 83 years, you can forgive us.
That's right. This notion of bolstering is really important, and it allows, in the image repair typology, for some reduction of responsibility. So that's the first one. The second thing that they've done is in the messaging or in the statements, I've read that our staff didn't follow protocol. Now, this means that the two people that were responsible, a guy named Brian Cullinan and Martha Ruiz, who was on the other side of the stage, apparently didn't act quickly enough according to PwC's method of operation.
The response, I mean, by the time they went out and stopped the La La Land making their acceptance speech.
Exactly.
It was at least a couple of minutes.
Weren't there like 2 speeches already finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't act quickly enough. They violated the protocol. Now, you know, this technique, it's part of the denial strategy, but it's a little bit of scapegoating. And scapegoating is the key inside of the denial strategy. You can use that, and by saying that the protocol wasn't followed, you get the opportunity to say, these two people aren't PricewaterhouseCoopers. They didn't follow PricewaterhouseCoopers protocol. The company is fine. We did the right thing, but 2 people didn't. We see that technique used quite often. In fact, you might remember Volkswagen.
Yes.
Yeah, and the emissions scandal.
Right.
Very quickly, while the chairman resigned, tried to take responsibility, very quickly the investigation turned to a group of engineers who were not the company. They were not following the company procedures. That's scapegoating. PricewaterhouseCoopers used just a little bit of that when they carried that phrase out.
Yeah, it was one guy, human error.
Human error, that's right. And didn't follow the protocol. That was the thing. Now let's get down to the third thing. Did you see in some of the coverage that they were talking about, oh, there's so much commotion backstage, there's all kinds of things going on. This is a strategy under the evade responsibility category called defeasibility. And defeasibility is, there were so many other things going on. It's even, you and I could use it. Gosh, I'm sorry I'm late. I got caught in traffic. Not something I could control. That's the key. Defeasibility allows you to somehow or another reduce the offensiveness of all things because it's some other things were going on. And that was a strategy or technique that came out in PwC's messaging as well. The predominant strategy and technique that they use, though, is mortification. They've said things like, we sincerely apologize, we deeply regret. In fact, I even saw one piece of news coverage where it said, last night we failed. That's a big deal, and using those words of mortification are accepting blame right away in the hopes that those watching and those that were in the moment can forgive pretty quickly. And like we were talking about earlier, it's human error, and some of these other things of it's not my fault, et cetera, can be a part of the mortification process. But if you do that quickly, sometimes it can really diffuse the situation. And you know what? There's a few other things that I think will help. There was one, by the way, you know who the happiest guy of Oscars night was?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Jimmy Kimmel did a pretty good job, and this is why. The happiest guy that night was Steve Harvey.
Oh, all right.
Because
it happens to it can happen to anybody.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Kimmel came out and said, I blame Steve Harvey. And all of a sudden, Steve Harvey's Miss Universe gaffe is now no longer the number one goof.
That seems pretty minor compared to this one.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an interesting analysis, Jeff. Thank you. And so the image repair theory is a really effective way to do message analysis and response in crisis situations. And if you have more interest in this, we have a very interesting white paper here that is available here on the Predictive Media Network website. Jeff did an analysis on a recent CBS News investigation to the Wounded Warrior Project and how the image repair theory can be applied to that. So that's available here. Jeff, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Russ.
And thank you for watching.